So good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Lakshmi, and I will present some of the questions and learnings from a TIDA project in Mexico, which was developed with this team of colleagues. After this, Patty will present how we will contribute to the methods year of the STEP Center with a project that is being currently developed and which was inspired from some of the insights that I will show now. So the role of human agency is crucial for transformations, as you for sure know. However, there is still insufficient empirical and methodological evidence on how to identify individual agency and how to enable the emergence of collective agency. Thus, one of the main general questions for this research was how to operationalize aspects of theories on transformations to sustainability with diverse communities of practice by designing and implementing transdisciplinary methods. And in particular, in what ways can interventions foster the emergence of collective agency? The project was focused on the diverse ways to frame challenges and actions related to rapid urbanization around an iconic and degraded urban wetland in Mexico City, and how this could be related to a loss in the sense of agency. So over the course of almost 3 years, we worked with a small and diverse group of agents to co-produce a process with no clear outcome in terms of a tangible result predefined by the academics involved. Therefore, we saw an opportunity to design a process that was focused on reframing and its potential to enable collective agency, where we could also explore some of the constitutive elements of the pathways approach that I will later mention. So the first idea is that our reframing process was an iterative process conceptualized as safe enough spaces to nurture reflexivity and connections. And some of the important questions that were present along this challenge were, for example, how can we design a space where different logics of seeing the world coexist and a sense of group agency is co-created, and of course, without losing the individual's autonomy and differences? Or how to foster inspiration and hope while also exploring the barriers for change towards more sustainable futures. So the main general hypothesis was that the movement from individual agency to collective agency may occur in an orchestrated process of reframing. So during our project, different interactions were held, all with the aim of enabling deeper understandings and social bonding, for example, in terms of connections and collaborations, while embracing the plurality of visions. So the reframing was around the following elements: the system, so its challenges, problems, boundaries, and its possible desired pathways for change; the systems of beliefs, so values, meanings, and the perception of the self and of others in the system. So for example, in terms of the position of an agent in the system, the role, the powers and capacities, the interests, priorities, alliances, and practices. So if we further unpack the process into reframing cycles, and since in any methodological endeavor comprised in a normative-driven process, we also delved into questions that were always present. Questions such as, for which particular aims do we need reframing? Through which methods should we facilitate a process for change? And how do we make explicit the rationale behind an intervention? So the reframing cycles were characterized in terms of narratives, because although they are always incomplete, they are the verbal stories and sense-making derived from individual and collective experiences. In this sense, narratives represent the access to a deeper level of felt understandings and meanings expressed in how things are done in everyday life, as well as in attitudes, perceptions, behaviors. So the overall aims of the interactions we designed in each cycle were: for deconstructing narratives, we aimed at questioning dominant discourses and meanings. For creating new narratives, we facilitated making individual agency visible and also subject of reflection. And for materializing such new narratives, we fostered the redesign and co-creation of new possibilities for action. For this project, there were some constitutive elements of the pathways approach that Andy explained that were for us useful to operationalize the process. In particular, we highlight these four that were articulated through the aims I just mentioned. So opening up and broadening out wider discourses and possibilities for action through an explicit focus on the importance of eliciting the diverse framings and the rationales behind, which then could help in understanding and questioning dominant narratives and exploring alternative pathways. So to illustrate how we operationalize the approach, here are some of the particular methods we used for facilitating the deconstruction, creation, and materialization of narratives. So for example, we experience workshops to explore and reflect around diverse parts of the system, as well as different practices developed by some of the participants. So to try to foster bridging encounters, we mapped our capacities and powers to work towards desired futures by developing avatars. We designed a game called the Pathways to Sustainability game, where we could simulate moments that needed collective agency. If you are interested in knowing other methods we used along the process, you can check this guide we developed, which can be downloaded from the STEP Center website. So there are 4 insights that I would like to share to conclude this presentation. The first one is that affectivity matters. As a result of the reframing process, we observe not only the emergence of more systemic narratives, but also more empathetic narratives. So for this type of initiatives, we think it is crucial to navigate tensions between types of framings and transcend the notion that rational framing is merely Cartesian, but not also affective. The second one is that the challenge of reframing, of remaining, committed and involved even after a project ends, depends on how meaningful is the co-created space, and that the ownership belongs to all, not the conveners or facilitators. The third one is that although we did not explicitly work around tackling asymmetric power relations, notions of power were constantly discussed, and we see the potential of identifying and discussing in more depth the diverse political orientations to better understand the positionalities and rationales behind the interventions proposed. And the last one is that we need to be methodologically rebellious in order to genuinely be an active part of a transdisciplinary process that aims at contributing to transformations research, so to articulate a diversity of very time-consuming participatory methods while resisting to the concrete product result rationale. And so to also be open to challenge our own agency as researchers. And lastly, these are some of the particular issues that served as inspirations for the next project that Patty will present. Deepen the understandings around transformations and ways to generate other types of impact outside academia, and therefore further question the role of academia and explore alternative collective capacities, agency, and methodologies, question the logics and rationales for intervening, and of course, nurture a meaningful network of strategic allies. Thank you very much. And with this, I give the floor to Patty.